The eyes of the heedless are sleeping, and they are guided, and they clarify, and they are teaching, and they are purifying, and they are refining, and they revere the affair of Allah and the Deen. This foundation of theirs is what remains, and no one can demolish it. From near or far can demolish that foundation. No one who has taqwa will have their crops go wither. Their crops won't wither. Taqwa is brought near. Paradise is brought near to those who have taqwa. Know that Allah is with those who have taqwa, and those who are mindful of Allah, they will be praised in outcomes. The fruits of mindfulness of Allah, of consciousness of Allah, will be praised. And what this mindfulness of Allah manifests or makes them attain. His outcomes in all affairs, this worldly and otherworldly, are praiseworthy. The outcome is always in favor of those who are mindful of Allah. Everything that is not built upon taqwa will have a good outcome. The outcome is always in favor for those of taqwa alone. Allah tests His servants. These are days that we make revolve over people. He said, the earth belongs to Allah. He bequeaths it to whoever He wills, believer, unbeliever, pious, corrupt. No matter the extent to which they are presidents or leaders, the outcome is for those who had taqwa. Not everyone who governed, everyone who was in a position of authority. The one who is mindful of Allah, his outcome is praiseworthy. He praises and is praising. Who praises Him? The people of Allah's presence praise the person of taqwa. From Allah, Allah praises the person of taqwa. Allahu Akbar. So He is praised with the angels, those who are true, this pious, and praised by the Lord. He praises and is praised. The one who praises, the one who has mindful of Allah, he's praised in the outcome, or he praises the outcome. The one who is mindful of Allah, he praises the outcome of that. And Allah protects him of the harm of both the honored and the dishonored, the nobles and the ignobles. Anyone who has a meaning of honor or elevation or fame or strength or power or wealth or elevated station, outward or inward, all of them, this person who has taqwa is protected from the harm of all of those, both those who are honored and those who are not. And anyone who's base in any meaning of baseness, perceptible, that person is dominated, subjugated, belittled, or tested with difficulty, poverty, or weakness, or illness, or inwardly they were low, base, humiliated, people of vice, sins, corruption of hearts. Even if they're presidents, they're base inwardly. Both those who are elevated and those who are humiliated, you are in the is of the one, the elevation of the one who says to a thing, be, and it is. The one who is mindful of Allah, he praises the outcome and is protected from the harm of both those who are honored and humiliated, outwardly and inwardly. people of strong armaments, armies, military, people of black magic, wrongdoing, betrayal, trickery, deception, people of hypocrisy. Allah protects them from the harm of all of those. He fends off the harm of all of those by this person being true in taqwa of Allah Jalla Jalala wa Ta'ala fi ula. Because he was true to Allah, so Allah was for him and with him. And in this perceptible world, someone said, a king, he said to him, said, why do you honor so-and-so and are generous to so-and-so? They asked this king. He was silent, and then he was walking along a road, and he saw a snow on a mountain. And this man, he ran off with his horse. He went and got the snow and brought it to the king. And he said, who told you that I wanted that snow? He said, I saw you watching it closely. He said, the kings don't look of idle purpose. He said, do you see why I put him ahead of you? His thought and his concern is with me. He pays attention to what I want, not what he wants. So he rushes to please me. The king of the kings, if one of the servants is like this, Allah puts that servant forward, honors them, reveres them, or gives them a revered station, you could say. However, he can give what kings of the world can't, vaster, more elevated, more vast and elevated, more sublime. Whoever is mindful of Allah, he praises the outcomes, and Allah protects him from the harm of those who are honored or humiliated. So what an excellent fortress mindfulness of the Lord of the worlds is. If someone is mindful of Allah and patient, Allah does not neglect the reward of those who are good. And he is the most merciful of the merciful. He said, are you Yusuf? He said, I'm Yusuf. And he said, Allah has favored you over us. Surely the one who is mindful of Allah and patient, Allah does not neglect the reward, the works of the good. In this manner we made Yusuf firm in the earth. He could dwell there and wherever he could. Look how someone is good between him and Allah, how Allah gives him. Even if he's imprisoned, he has a strong beyond him that supports him outwardly and inwardly. He brings what no eye has seen, no ear has heard. Allahu Akbar. Allah does not neglect the reward of those who are good, and the reward of the hereafter is better for those who believed and had taqwa of Allah. Oh Allah, give us the realities of faith and mindfulness of Allah. You all be true to Allah. Let us repeatedly ask him that Allah spread faith and taqwa in the hearts of all of the Muslims and protect them from harm, from trials, from the power of enemies, and that good will descend upon them inward out. And if only the people of the villages believed and had taqwa, we would have opened for them abundance of the heavens and the earth. These are from the means that Allah has prescribed and made in his wisdom. We don't seek this in outward nations with their various types, not Muslims or non-Muslims. None of them are independent at their own hands, can bring any good. We seek from the strong, we seek from the omnipotent, we seek from the one who no one can overturn his decree or his judgment. And nothing occurs except as he wills, as Allah has prescribed. The one who plants crops, he can hope for a harvest. The reality, we ask Allah to spread the realities of Iman and Taqwa in our men, women, and protect us from the tricks and protect us from paying attention to other than Allah. And those who take others as protectors are like the spider that took a house, made a house of spider's webs. We ask Allah to spread faith and mindfulness of Allah, taqwa of Allah, and that He uses each of us in complete faith and taqwa so that we could spread faith and taqwa among humanity, so that the blessings of the earth and the heavens are open for us, and we are given salvation and protect us from falling into calamities caused by devils of mankind or jinn. O Allah, alleviate the hardships of the Muslims. And He said, when a misfortune befalls you, say it is from yourselves. The one who praises Allah, who is mindful of Allah, he praises the outcome. Someone who seeks other than Allah in anything the one who would support him is incompetence and forsaking. That's the one who seeks other than Allah to help him. The person that would have helped him is incompetent and forsaken. That's if someone seeks aid from other than Allah, dependent on other than Allah. In anything that he's seeking of this worldly or otherworldly affairs, someone who seeks aid in other than Allah, what would help him is incompetence and something forsaken. He's seeking help from those that are incompetent. So he directed his attention other than Allah. Who could support him? If Allah supports you, no one can overcome you. And if He forsakes you, then who could? Who is there that will support you after Him, other than Him? Who is that? Who could lift his head before the omnipotence of Allah? Who? There's no supporter or grantor of victory other than Allah. There's no one who can support except the one who Allah supports. If someone seeks the aid of other than Allah, then the one who would support him is incompetent and forsaken. We seek refuge in Allah from Allah's anger. And the person will be incompetent or incapable, just as he sought refuge in those that were incapable. He'll be weak just as he deviated from Allah the strong. He will be forsaken. He will be failed. The one who sought aid in other than the compeller, Al-Jabbar, who does as he wills, the one who sought aid from other than Allah in any pursuit, his support is actually incapable and forsaken. We seek refuge in Allah from that. Someone who refuses to withholds good. If Allah gives him wealth, Allah gives him capabilities, Allah gives him fame, Allah gives him opinion, wisdom, strength, he prevents it, deprives others of it, of man or jinn or angel or animals. He withholds the good Allah gives him of those who need it, of humanity and animals. Someone who withholds the good, he in reality has no brothers or friends. He has no brotherhood or companionship. He doesn't have any allies in praiseworthy things. He doesn't have any friends that are allies, no true friend, because he withholds good. And Allah criticize those who withhold small kindnesses. And Allah criticize those who withhold good and are transgressors and sinners. Those people who withhold the good that they have, those people do not find love for them in their hearts. Just as He said, if you do good to people, you'll enslave them. He said he has no friend or brother. The one who withholds good, in reality has no brothers or friends. They said in their aphorisms, the pious, the one who's generous would be eminent and govern the lands. Someone who is generous, that's like the one who shows favor, and the one who's stingy is far from Allah, far from humanity, far from paradise, close to fire. The one who withholds good, and the person who's generous, close to Allah, close to people, close to paradise, distant from fire. Someone who withholds good, in reality, he will not have brothers or friends. He doesn't have a friend. Nor will he have a pious brother. Those are the ones who withheld good, refused to give good. And they don't give except able to cause corruption or harm. They spend money in order to block people from the way of Allah. Allah said they'll be put in hell, all of them. They see the reality and they'll say, we have no intercessors, nor do we have any friend that will intercede. That's what they'll say on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Said, you don't have any brothers or friends? How don't you have any intercessor or any friend? Where's his friend? His friend's like him. He didn't have any benefit from Allah. And they'll curse one another. He said he has no close friend. Someone who is influential with Allah. Because all of their friends were the same. All of them were wicked. In hellfire, they'll blame one another. He said that we have no intercessors nor any friends, that people of hell will say. This is how those who refuse to share the good Allah gives them. He said, the one who withholds good, he in reality has no friends or brothers. However, those who spent and gave for Allah's sake, Allah said, we remove any ill will, any feeling from their hearts, their brothers facing one another on raised platforms. They're under the shade of the throne. How much do they have? They spent for Allah. They gave for Allah. They truly had brotherhood. May Allah give us and you to be honest with Him, to spend for His noble countenance. Our leaders, our predecessors in this land, they said they give food. They give food. They say we only give for the sake of Allah. We don't want any reward from those to whom we give. Oh, Allah gave them then. Allah gave them beyond what they hoped for. Jalla Jalalu. So now we're reading from the commentary on the Hikam of Sheikh Adi Baras. It's very likely or often He gave you and thus withheld from you. He gave to you and thus withheld from you. And it's likely that He withheld from you and in reality gave to you. So this is a very great aphorism. He said it's often occurs. He said that maybe He prevented you from pleasant things that you desire, the end of which is temporal, and they and he said and being prevented from receiving ephemeral things that have no outcome and ultimate reality is in fact giving. And maybe he withheld from you your desires and the pleasures that you would want to indulge in, and as a result gave you a great reward because you were deprived of these appetites, and that made you attain the highest station. Habib Omar's commenting. Ibn Ata'illah said, when he gives you an understanding of deprivation, deprivation becomes the essence of giving. Maybe he gave you and prevented you, and maybe he prevented you and in fact gave to you. He said, maybe the appearance of giving is in reality withholding, and the appearance of withholding is reality of giving. He said, so that you rely on the giver and the withholder, not the gift and what is being withholded. So then you're comforted by deprivation the same way you're comforted by receiving. Oh, ego, if you don't receive, don't panic. The gifts come from your master. If an aspiration, if something you seek is delayed, everything you seek is in that what he withheld, what he delayed. In the delaying itself is everything you hope for. So be comforted by deprivation and steward its right. Good pleasure is the attribute of someone who's returns to Allah. La ilaha illallah. It's often that he withholds, and in fact, he often gives and withholds. He gives you some of the things you want, the worldly things you want. And then that was a cause of your being deprived of something that's greater, that's eternal in the hereafter. That what appeared to be a gift was in reality deprivation. They say, do we believe that the wealth and children we give, it causes them to rush into good? They don't perceive. As for the person, when his Lord gives to him, he says, my Lord was generous. And when Allah withholds, he says, my Lord humiliated me. Allah said, no. He said, honor is not through this and humiliation is not through that, except for the path, the straight path. He said, you're not generous to the orphan or give to the needy. He said, through that is honor, and in disobedience is humiliation. And you consume estates greedily, and you love wealth. This person abased themselves. And he said, not the ones who we gave something worldly did we honor. And he said, you see, if we give them to benefit for years, and then they come without any good deeds, one of them wishes he could have lived for 1,000 years, and that wouldn't have prevented him from the hellfire. There's severe punishment before him. What does his lifespan benefit him? That wouldn't have prevented him from the hellfire, to him to live a long time, and Allah sees well what they are doing. It's likely that he gave you and withheld from you. He gives you something you're asking for, and then you become vain, for example. Better that you didn't get that. It would have been better that you didn't become vain, and instead you were humble. He said this humility would have been better 100 times, 1,000 times than for you to get what you wanted that prevented you from humility. We ask Allah to treat us in a manner becoming of Him, and that He gives to us that in which He knows there's good for us. He said, when He gives you what you desire and allows you to attain your pleasures, He might prevent you from the things that are eternal, that that never end. Maybe he prevents you from some of your appetites or your pleasures, and he'll give you greater reward and the highest station, and made you enter among the nobles, and made you be among the pure. Is that deprivation? No, that's absolute giving. He gave you elevated generosity, and what's better than that? So the thing you chose was in fact deprivation. So beware that a gift be in reality deprivation, or deprivation be in reality giving, so that you are not comforted by anything other than the giver or the one who withholds. If Allah gives you, say, oh Allah, in good and well-being, only give it to me if you know it's good for me. Otherwise, it could be a greater misfortune. And Allah knows better the interests of His servants. May Allah give us lutf and afiyah. Oh Allah, be gentle to us and the Muslims in your decrees. His gifts are diverse. Give us from these vast gifts. They've come to the river of life, and all of them have drunk from that river. Far be it from the generous to send them away from that river thirsty, and munificence comes from this place. Oh my Lord, I have a vast good opinion that I travel with. Everyone who seeks your favor receive rain. It's my pasture will not remain dry then. They came seeking Allah's beneficence. They counseled in truth and steadfastness. Everyone who hopes for your beneficence or your grace, they receive rain. Far be it from Allah that He would let us down in this gathering. Oh Allah, bless these meetings, these gatherings for your sake. Bless our lives and make these sweeter, more elevated, and of greater fruits, and gatherings that are beloved and bring near to you, O Lord of the worlds. And no one knows deprivation in giving or giving in deprivation except someone who receives an opening. And he said, when he opens for you a door of understanding deprivation, deprivation becomes the essence of giving. So withholding becomes the essence of giving. He said, so then you would have attained the secrets that were guarded. He said that guarded knowledge, that protected knowledge. So when you see in deprivation great giving in this world or the next, you'll know for sure that deprivation from your appetites, your desires, is from the treasures of your salvation. And that will give you a light of understanding that deprivation, being deprived of your ephemeral appetites or the ephemeral desires you have, and your fleeting motives, is an endless gift and an everlasting treasure. If Allah aids someone in developing an understanding from Allah, Allah will show him the outcomes of affairs prior to his being deluded by the beginnings of affairs. And Allah will unveil for him from his inward prior to his being betrayed and tricked through the outward. And understanding is from the most precious of the knowledge of the Sufis. because it is a light that Allah creates in the heart by which it perceives things correctly or and perceives what's correct and incorrect. So Habib's commenting. He said, and then he mentioned, when he opens for you a door of deprivation, understanding of deprivation, you knew wisdoms and the wondrous order and the one who brought things forward and caused them to recede, and you comprehended the secret of Allah's giving and withholding. Deprivation became the essence of giving. When he made you understand, open for you a door of understanding deprivation became the essence of giving. However, this opening is for the pure and it is over levels. So how wondrous are the states of the greats in that. They knew that there's no one who withholds what Allah gives or giver of what Allah withholds, and that's a dua the Prophet taught us after prayer. So Allah gave them blessings and mercy and favor and grace and goodness and bringing near and belovedness in every deprivation and gift. He brings him nearer, increases him. He benefits him. He loves him. Ya salam. How wondrous is this deprivation then, and how wondrous is giving. This person is in a beautiful state then, with the one who gives, withholds, the one who supports and protects. So this person's always pleased, and good pleasure increases to this person, and then he increases in pleasure with Allah, and Allah gives him more good pleasure. So he continues to ascend. When he opens for you a door of understanding deprivation becomes the essence of giving. He made you know the subtleties of guarded secret knowledge, and that's from what the prophets were given. And the people of firmness among them, the great of them, they go to the head. Look at every prophet has a prayer, our prophet has said. And he said, and I've guarded my prayer as an intercession for my nation. Due to his strong knowledge of the Allah's withholding, he perceives from the secrets of wisdom of changing states of people and the fluctuation of their hearts, what others did not perceive. The prophets perceive what the awliya didn't perceive. However, Allah's beloved Prophet Muhammad, he perceived what others didn't. And Noah said, oh Allah, don't live any unbelievers in homes on this earth. And Prophet Muhammad, he said, oh Allah, guide my people for they know not. Prayers and peace be upon him. His is the firmest station. So some of the knowers of Allah, Allah showed him subtleties of what he wills from the servants. In some hadith, the Prophet ﷺ stated it explicitly in some hadith. He said he mentioned the name of anyone who governed 300 people. So many names were mentioned on that day. Until the people of hellfire into paradise. No, the people of paradise into paradise, people of hellfire into hellfire. Glory to the one who taught him, and he taught you what you knew not. And he said, this is my will in my creation, Allah says. And he said, don't rush and pray against anyone then. The Prophet Muhammad didn't do that. He said he knew Allah's decree and the secrets of that. So only thing that came from him, oh Allah, guide my people, they know not, go and you're all free. Those are the things he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, the author here, Ibn Ata'illah, says, the one who gives him to understand so he gives that the servant, he doesn't give or withhold or gaze or hear, except that it's beloved and confirming to the inward of that affair with Allah. Out of divine concern, gentleness, assistance, guiding him to what's correct and inspiration. So then Allah cares for the whole affair of the servant. He's left his ego. He's left his own vain desires. He has no aim other than his Lord. So then Allah cares for his whole affair and guides him always to what's more beloved and pure. If they enter, they exit, they speak, they're silent, it's all with the concern of our Rahman. They're guided to what's pure and good in the outcome. When Allah loves, don't ask how he treats the one he loves. Allah. La ilaha illahu. And it appears that it's conformity or in contradiction. He'll do what Allah is true, what's true with Allah, and leave everything else. The Prophet said, seek the fatwa of your heart, seek a question of your heart, no matter what legal opinions they give you. Those who know the reality of affairs, khalas, keep going with Allah's guidance. And someone will not attain that view who's guided by his caprice and led by his lower self. And he said, those only are the prophets and their heirs. They make decisions based on pure hearts, not hearts which are polluted by the dirt of vain desires. The creation, the outward of them is a deception, the inward of them is a lesson. The ego looks to the outward deception, and the heart looks to the inward lesson. So the creation is everything other than the creator, and it's everything beneath the saying of Allah, be, and it is, of all types of creatures, physical and spiritual. And the aim here is everything and everything, what's meant here is everything that the ego views and desires. And the lower self, the ego, in its nature, is disposed to ignorance. And that's the animal self. And the heart is the illumined, subtle, spiritual matter of lordly origin that the real has clothed in the light of his attributes and brought it from the attribute of the lower self and adorned it in the light of his attributes and poured over it the heart from the manifestations of his names. So it always fluctuates in the garments of manifestations of divine names, and it moves in the elevated place of the attributes of the beginningless. So it receives from the attribute of knowledge and it receives from the attribute of speech and the attribute of sight and the attribute of hearing and the attribute of life and the attribute of power and the attribute of will to the extent that has been decreed for it to be given. And there are manifestations of every name that appear over it. And when it has a manifestation of a divine name over it, the power of that name governs it. And these are attributes of the real, and his names, they are like a mirror that is polished. And they transmit what is manifest to them. The heart that is flesh is like an opaque wood stuck to the mirror. The self, the lower self, is like an animal, terrestrial, and commanding of evil appetites. So Habib's going to comment on this. The creation, it means everything other than the creator. Everything other than the creator of all realms, celestial and terrestrial, or upper and lower. However, what's meant here, what the lower self has a desire for. The affairs of this lower world before us, and the commotion there from the devils of mankind and jinn, and their voices are used through various means of communication. The outward of this is deception, through which those who are not illumined are tricked, and those who are not pure are tricked, and those who Allah does not will them to be above, those who are not saved, those who are not assisted in their salvation, they are tricked by the outward deception of the world. They believe in it, and they fall into its pits. And they're punished. And they return to a wicked end of this world, and we seek refuge. And they're resurrected with Harut and Marut. However, those who look with the heart, they learn and take heed. They know that which is sought, that which should be willed, and what should be paid attention. And they know that they shouldn't take from life they shouldn't take any of the poison from a snake. He said this person, that he takes the antidote from the poisonous snake and avoid all of its poison by the light of inner sight and being given success by the one who knows that which is secret. The creatures, their outward is a deceit, is a trick. Allah brought them forth to determine between the two people, those who are intelligent and those who are fools, those who strive. He travels with an illumined heart, and he reflects and sees that it's just a cause of sadness. He said, this heart is a gift that Allah gave. Allah said, I had blown into him of my spirit, so you all fall prostrate to him. Allah gave it from the light of his attributes and poured upon it from the manifestation of his names. This subtle, lordly, spiritual matter, it fluctuates through the manifestations of divine names. And it receives from Allah's attributes knowledge, speech, sight, hearing, to the extent that Allah has willed. And there's a manifestation of every name over the heart. So this heart is like a polished mirror that transmits what reflects in it and pours forth what is cast to it. As for the flesh heart, it's like an opaque wood that's placed over a mirror. When there's a wood put in front of a mirror, it can't reflect. Said, you hold that wood. And he said the lower self is like this wood that is placed in front of a mirror that doesn't reflect. So this relationship between the physical heart and the reality of the subtle spiritual heart, if we want to explain this, Sheikh Ali, here's an ocean that he's describing. He said that will go beyond. He said the creation of the place of what the ego desires is the trick. A person is tricked by what's apparent, and they're not guided through the light of the heart. They remain in ignorance. And this ignorance is the ignorance of the ego, the ignorance of the body, the terrestrial ignorance. They're veiled by the outward of the creation, by that which the bodies are pleased with. And Allah said, when you see them, their bodies please you. When they speak, it is as if they are like wood. Do not be deluded. Do not be tricked by these superficial things. They don't have a reality. If you're a person of a heart seeing its ugliness, you would have seen what was occurring. Inwardly, it is a lesson. May Allah give us to draw the lesson, reflect. May Allah give us inner sight that is purified from being veiled by the creation.
ومن يجالس لنا يلقى فوايد عيان حسنة زهيات شي باطن وشي في العلن حسنة زهيات شي باطن وشي في العلن ومن يجالس لنا يلقى الفوايد عيان حسنة زهيات شي باطن وشي في العلان مواهب الله ما تضبط بحادث وظن منح غوالي فما يلقى لها من ثمن. من فضل ربي ببركات النبي المؤتمن المصطفى الزين نور القلب جد الحسن خير النبيين طب القلب هو البدن وقبلة الروح خاتم الرسل باب المنان. به كم سرايا تسري بل وكم دير دان يا من حضر عندنا اشرب عذب صافي تهان يا من حضر عندنا اشرب عذب صافي تهن. خذ من كوس الصفا لما قربها دران. خذ من كوس الصفا لما قربها دران. كوسنا قد صفات لمن لهم حسن ظان حلت لأهل النقاء يدري بها أهل الفطن وللحليم الإشارة قد كفت على اللسان. الله حاسبي وهو كافي شرور الزمان وهو ذخيرتي والدافع لكل المحن يا واسع الجود عاملنا بفضل ومان واختم لنا منك بالحسن نهار الضعان. ببركة المصطفى خير الورى المؤتمن عليه صلي وسلم كلما راعد حان وله وصاحبه وتابعهم بأقوى سنان ومن يجالس لنا يلقى الفوايد عيان.
جنة القوم